So this today comes from ITV, and already, even though there has already been one massively failed coup attempt against Theresa May, partly because of the fact that the people who wanted to oust her couldn't present a genuine alternative to Theresa May, no one wanted to get rid of her. And so, as a result, now, according to this, what we're going to go through is that there is a coup trying to happen against Theresa May, trying to get her to push out. So this comes from ITV. So, the correct reports in the Sunday Times and Mail on Sunday this morning are saying that some ministers, not all, want Theresa May to go now and make way for a caretaker, either David Lidington or Michael Gove. And it tells me not she will definitely go within a few days, although she may do, but the government is perilously close to collapse, because what it shows is the underlying split in the cabinet between those ministers, Gove, Clark, Rudd and Murdoch, who want to stop a no-deal Brexit at any cost, and those who want to prevent either a referendum or a soft Brexit in name only. Lebson, Moran, Fox and Grayling have become completely immovable. So, for a brief moment at the end of last week, ministers on the Remain side in Parliament thought replacing May would paper over this yawning gap on the most important decision this country has faced since we joined the EU in 1973. But it can't and won't. The fact that both the contenders to replace her, Langton and Gove, would hasten ministerial resignations in in what both would be likely as May. In fact, probably more likely to steer the UK to a Brexit in which the UK would be seen by many Tories to be a vassal or subservient state, or even steer more towards a people's vote. Ministers not in the Brexit ultra or the Remain camps are explicit with me that May's imminent departure would solve nothing. One said, "We need to play the we need to play the ball, not the man." Another said, "No credible route from A to B, i.e. from cabinet unhappiness with her to finding a replacement who would unite rather than divide." A third added, "I don't believe May's resignation will happen, and I would not be part of it. But everyone is turning over remote possibilities to try and get out of jail, and that is the rub. That is the real importance of what's happening. As I wrote last night, the coming few days will see MPs, not the government, forced to choose between a no-deal Brexit on the 12th of April and an alternative route. They may select via the indicative votes on Tuesday and Wednesday. The Prime Minister, whether May or Langton or Gove, would in turn have to decide whether to negotiate the PM's preferred Brexit outcome with Brussels and the EU's 27 leaders. If the MPs were to coalesce around the two most likely options, either a Brexit in name only or a referendum that would split both the cabinet and the Tory party right down the middle. One minister said, "Let me be clear. There will be some of my colleagues who will argue that Parliament should be dissolved and we should clear our channels in a general election rather than have a referendum or customs union Brexit. This is why there is so much talk on the backbench MPs not just taking over the Brexit discussion, but the whole machinery of government, by appointing someone trusted by all sides, as yet unidentified, from the backbenchers, as a Brexit caretaker PM in charge of a temporary government of national unity." So now they're calling for a government of national unity, when if you remember this was called for by Caroline Lucas a couple of months ago. This was seen as, oh, well, we can't do that. But here we are. And you also have the problem of a lot of these people had the opportunity to get rid of May, but voted to keep her because, as has been said here, there is no viable alternative they want to replace Theresa May. With this revolt of the Commons against the PM, and the entire executive actually happen? The mechanics of such a fully fledged coup are tricky, but the looming decision on whether to leave the EU on the 12th of April is testing this minority government to breaking point. The unhappiness with May is a proxy for the failure of the entire government to solve the most important and irretractable problem of modern politics, a Brexit that does not destroy the institution that gave us the EU referendum, the Tory party. If May falls, the whole government may well too. So this is an update, literally at 1:10 today. So, as of yet, it may look like the cabinet coup against May is over before it even started. Authoritative sources close to Gove tell me he does not believe there should be a caretaker Prime Minister, so it won't be him. David Lidington has said on the record he doesn't want to be PM. The only outstanding question is whether May changes her mind and decides later today, having seen Boris Johnson, David Davis, Damien Green, etc., or the nearest Tories have these days to the man in grey suits that would help her chances of getting her Brexit deal over the line, to announce that she would quit immediately after her deal is ratified by MPs. One of those advising her says he thinks that if she promised to quit, and that could swing the vote in her direction. Others say that any pledge from her would not make any difference at all. As for her cabinet colleagues, they think it is highly unlikely we'll hear from her on Sunday that she's going. It is simply not in her nature to give a date for her resignation, one minister said, but truthfully, I don't know for sure. Or put it another way, the tradition of May's cabinet ministers not having a clue what the PM will be doing on the big things that matter hasn't yet been broken, and probably will endure until that unknown date of her exit. As I said earlier, there is a good chance that a meaningful vote on Tuesdays and Wednesdays that MPs will back either a softer form of Brexit that breaches the PM's red lines on ending freedom of movement and negotiating a trade deal, or the Kyle Wilson referendum plan. I have now asked 8 members of the Cabinet what they think May would respect the will of the Parliament and negotiate either of those outcomes with the EU, and they said she would not. What then, I asked. All feared there would be a general election, which is also what the Brexit Secretary Steve Barclay is mooting. There are Brexit Tory MPs from the ERG, which is what you'll remember I described is a very real risk earlier today. You have been warned. This is the point that Landon was some cabinet ministers' answer to the question, what do we do if the PM's invictive votes go for a soft Brexit? Will Theresa May refuse to negotiate with the EU? Let's hope he, as someone trusted by Labour, would take over for a few weeks to broker that compromise with Brussels. Maybe it will still come to that. Preference to the chaos of a snap general election. But truly, with so many ministers and Tory MPs preferring an election to a soft Brexit, the Cabinet won't have the luxury of appointing a temporary caretaker PM. And that's where we are. So I'm doing this on Sunday at just 6:10. So who knows? For all we know, in the next hour, Theresa May announce her resignation, and this video could be completely useless. But who knows? We'll have to see. Obviously, this video is going out on Wednesday. We'll have to see what happened in terms of votes. And as usual, we don't know what's going to happen with Brexit. But there you go. That is the question that has been going around for the past 2 years. No one knows what's going to happen. And this is not only the fault of Theresa May, but it's the fault of Brexiteers. It's the fault of someone like Nigel Farage, who today went on Sky News and said that he is disgusted with the lying MPs. Nigel, do you realise that you yourself have lied for years and decades? You've got a very good track record for it. You also say that you're down to take down these self-serving MPs. You yourself have been self-serving as a member of the European Parliament. You've taken every single fisherman who has trusted you, and to be honest, if you're a fisherman, I've said this before in many videos, Nigel Farage is not your friend. Go and look up what he's actually done for you in the European Parliament. He's done nothing when he could have actually done a lot to potentially help you. But he's done nothing. So once again, you've had... So again, he doesn't include himself in this list of MPs. But there you go. So don't expect Nigel Farage, if he ever does become an MP, to suddenly become this man of the people, actually have a champion of ideas. Because once again, if Nigel Farage actually had a plan for Brexit and actually what to do and a way to see this chaos and actually how to deliver Brexit, he would have delivered it. He would have said it during the referendum. But of course he didn't. Because he doesn't have a plan. None of these Brexiteers have a plan. They all just think that somehow we'll leave the EU and everything will be fine. But it won't be. We've discussed this time and time and time again. It will be absolute chaos. None of the trade deals we do with outside the EU will replace all the trade we currently do with the EU. It's called economic gravity. And this is an observable fact. Countries always deal with their closest neighbour. A deal with the US, Brazil, India, China, all these places that they've mentioned numerous times, a trade deal will not replace the trade we lose with the EU. Our economy is screwed. But remember, guys, that's what you voted for. That's what you were conned into voting for. All these Brexit lies during the referendum, where they pretty much sold every single idea except a no deal. A no deal was basically turned up at the nose. Even Nigel Farage saying, "Oh, what's so wrong with Norway?" and championing the Norway, idea of Norway during the referendum. Again, he's a complete liar. And now he's championing the idea for a no deal Brexit, when back in the referendum it was something that he said wouldn't happen. But there you go. So once again, Brexit is everything to play for, but as you've seen, there has now been mounting pressure. The online petition has passed over 5 million numbers by now, and now that the full numbers are in, it looks like there are close to about 2 million people in London on that anti-Brexit march. So there is more of a will to remain than any of these Brexiteers want to actually admit. And let's be honest, if there was, you would be seeing the kind of numbers at Nigel Farage's Leave Means Leaves march. But this is a guy who can't even be bothered to turn up and march with these people. So there you go.